My first time at Snow King was actually in 1952. We're coming through to ski at Sun Valley, but we stopped off on Teton Pass, no, on Togety Pass, and skied up there. So we stayed over for a night in Jackson, and I skied Snow King that day. What we concluded out of that was as we were leaving over Teton Pass, we stopped at the pass and we looked back over, and all four of us said, we'll live here someday. And I'm the only one that made it. The reason that we wanted to live here was really the people, the friendliness of the whole situation. And nothing was more friendly than Snow King.
The one thing that I always wanted for Christmas was a season pass to ski on Snow King. And I can even remember there was a season pass cost like $6 for a kid. You know, that was my ticket to fill my days through the winter.
Me and my sisters, and probably most of the kids in town, we could buy a season pass for $35. You know, sounds pretty cheap, but when you consider that babysitting made 25 cents an hour, that's a lot of hours of babysitting to buy a season pass.
We get our season passes. They're always like yellow with green print, I remember. I think they cost like $39. I always remember my parents saying, like, you gotta pay that pass off, right? And so it was just like any moment you could go ski. We'd put our skis on, like in the driveway on Broadway, and we just push all the way up Willow to Snow King.
And pick my way down to the top of Pine Drive, and then I'd ski on the road home.
We always joke we had ski in, ski out, even though we lived like 7 blocks away.
They didn't put sand and gravel on the roads. It was just snow, so we ski skated to the hill. And then we ski skate home. We were so cold, Mom had to take our boots off because they were the leather boots. They were frozen, and we were frozen.
The bunny, it was not a chair, it was a little rope tow. It was full of kids skiing there, and our parents would just leave us to ski at the bunny tow, and you would ride it up and ski down to the bottom, ski straight and turn in left at the bottom. So even today, my left turn's a lot stronger than my right.
It was totally the town babysitter. Neil Rafferty knew all of us kids, and he and the ski patrollers kept track of us. Okay, before Teton Village was developed, Snow King would have a line that we waited in line 45 minutes to get on the chairlift. It's hard to imagine, but we did.
But I remember in the spring, the sun finally hit the mountain, at the bottom, and it would get slushy, and people came skiing. There would be a lift line, and they played polka music on the loudspeaker, which I loved.
Neil Rafferty developed what he called the ski jitney. It was a Jeep, and he had it covered in the back with racks on the outside to put our skis. And us kids could ride to the top, ski down the back, and Neil Rafferty would come around and pick us up in the ski jitney and bring us back.
We got invited to race in the downhill. We were doing our last training run, and then I came out of the chute, we call it now, and my uphill ski popped off right when I was going into the transition, and I flipped head over heels, and so I went into a seizure, went down and into the trees on East Style Hung. And then I woke up in the sled when they were putting me in the sled and everything, and then I felt fine, and they brought me to the ambulance, and the ambulance brought me to the hospital, and they says, well, you don't have a seizure for no reason, so let's get a CAT scan of you. And then they found a brain cyst in my third ventricle, and so the neurosurgeon looked at it and he says, well, you could have gone to sleep and had a bad headache, and within 2 weeks that you would have blocked off this cerebral spinal fluid and died. So basically, Snow King saved my life.
If you go back before there was snowmaking, there were many years that we weren't even skiing on Snow King until into January.
We'd go for a month or two sometimes with grass still sticking up. It was ski on grass and a little bit of rocks and stuff, or not skiing. So
If a rat pack of us kids went out and skied Snow King, it would be rare if somebody didn't break a pair of skis. And I mean like splinter a pair of skis.
I remember being in high school, I think it was probably 1963. Snow King had contracted to have the Junior Nationals. Big race, like Olympics for kids. It didn't snow that year.
Snow King was bare until almost the 1st of March, and they were really worried about having enough snow to even set the race courses for the Junior Nationals.
So the community decided they would go up on Teton Pass and load the snow up in dump trucks and bring it down.
Then it was just chunks of ice, and they said they were trying to break them up with axes and hammers, and then somebody suggested horses, and the horses would just follow each other in a straight line.
So Snow King went to Colorado when they had first made snowmaking, got some snow guns. All they made was water. The community did not give up. The week before the Junior Nationals, it snowed a couple feet. They held the Junior Nationals, and then it melted.
So it's a very unusual race in the sense that any citizen can just put on a pair of skis and get in, get registered, and get in the starting gate and go.
believe it or not, there's a whole lot of people that had never even ski raced before that did the town downhill as their first ski race.
A lot of those guys just come off the couch and do it, but it wasn't really my style.
The original town downhill course was from the top of the S chutes for the pros, top of Grizzly for the amateurs, and Telly. It's usually pretty firm, starts really fast.
You know, pretty technical and super fast, and you didn't want to, you know, not be on your game up there.
You know, being as steep as it is on the upper course, people were achieving some high speeds by the time they came to Schützenpansen, which is a stretch where you come out of the steeper part and head toward Old Man's Flats. They were going, I think, 73 miles per hour was the fastest ever timed on that.
I was going 45. It was plenty fast for me.
I raced in maybe 20.
All right, so we're going to take a brief intermission here, and I'm going to start off by asking some questions of the panelists here while they figure out some technical issues. So I'm just going to have you guys go through and briefly introduce yourselves and maybe give a little bit about your history in the town and your history with Snow King.
Hi, thanks for coming. I'm Jim Sullivan, and I came to Jackson. Listen harder. No, no, I always had this problem. Came to Jackson in 1973, and the first job that I had, I was hired. My first employer was Bill Briggs, and that just gave me a job. But he trained me to be a ski instructor. And in 1984, the position of ski area manager came up, and Bill recommended me for that job, and I did it for 27 years and loved every minute of it, except the bad times. So, would you say no? So that's how I got here, and I've been here ever since, 51 years now, and no regrets. Met my wife, Sarah, the third day I was here, and regretfully, we've been together. She thinks we've been together too long, but no, it's been a long time. Anyway, that's me. Thanks.
My name's Jim Rooks, and I want to clarify that I'm not here because I'm some kind of great skier. I might be the least skilled skier in this room. Walking in, I was like, oh my God, there's so many other people who should be up here. But Sam asked me to be here, so I'm happy to be here. What I was thinking when he asked me to be on the panel, I'm like, you know, the only thing that qualifies me to speak on behalf of Snow King in front of an incredible group of people like this is my love of Snow King. I just love that place. I did it as a little kid. I do today. I have a couple of my ski buddies in the audience. We're still out there just loving Snow King. New and improved in a lot of ways, but it's still Snow King. It's still rough out there. We were just talking today about conditions at the King, and you're like, that's why we love it. So yeah, I have a picture of my grandma, Jean Stewart Van Vleck, whose house was right here, that old red house. And I have a picture that I keep with any time I have a job, I have a desk, I always have this picture of her. And it's from 1940, which I believe the second year Snow King opened, and she's doing like this little freestyle, cool little kick. And I think she's 19 in that photo. My mom, Becky Stewart, taught me to ski up there. We moved all over Jackson when we were little. My dad was a football wrestling coach. He didn't care about skiing. And my mom, she'd always tell us one of the #1 reasons she moved us back here, thank God she did, was so we could learn to ski. And I remember her teaching me ski up there. And now my kids, they're snobs. They ski at the area, when we used to call it that. Right? I get them passes every year. I'm like, let's hit the King. And they ski the King, but they're spoiled. And yeah, I make them go to the King. I'm like, I'm not asking this time. We're going to ski the King. It's good for you. One of the Watswa guys said when he was learning up there, I just overheard your conversation. He said he's a little tiny kid learning to ski there, and it was freezing cold, and it was dark, steep, and cold, right? And he was crying. And dad says to him, "You're gonna have to get tougher." So I think Snow King's good for all of us that way. Thanks. Happy to be here.
My name is BJ Reed, and I started at Snow King in 1975. I was going to teach, but I ended up being a pro patrol, but I was sort of low woman on the totem pole. I did a lot of loading chairs with ski boots on. Anyway, so I started teaching at Snow King in 1976, and then let's see, in 2006, my friend Clayton Schmidt called me, and I was booking lessons. It was around Christmas, and canceling lessons because we didn't have any snow. And he said, "Hey, you want to come out and work at Jackson Hole?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" But I still ran the ski school that year, and just worked part-time at the village, and worked a few more years after that. So I ran all of the regular programs and the kids program for 14 years, somewhere back from 2006, and I ran a Ladies' Day program for I think 30 years, because I kept running that after I moved to the village, and yeah. And a lot of times, we were skiing the top of the mountain then, because we skied, they still ran the top of the mountain at the end of the day. And I barely ever ended up with all my clothes on by the end of the day, because kids would get cold, and I'd wear a lot of jackets, and I'd just give them a jacket or another jacket. So anyway, I taught a lot of people to ski. Thank you.
Really fast.
Pretty technical and super fast, and you didn't want to you know, not be on your game up there.
You know, being as steep as it is on the upper course, people were achieving some high speeds by the time they came to Schützenpansen, which is a stretch where you come out of the steeper part and head toward Old Man's Flats. They were going, I think, 73 miles per hour was the fastest ever timed on that.
I was going 45. It was plenty fast for me.
I raced in maybe 25 town downhills, dead last every time, but I had a great time.
I might have done it for 15 years, it's hard saying, but I think I won 4 overall. It started to get a little bit scarier as I got older.
It's unique in the sense that you can train for it.
The town downhill, like the few days before, all the boys come out. A lot of them come out like just a day or two before because they're like, okay, let's get ready. And they put their suits on and do some tuck runs, and it's pretty fun to be up there with all those old school guys.
Yeah, when you have somebody like Tommy Moe, or Sean Clark, or Shad Freed, or Adam McCool, any of those guys, they're out there, they know that, you know, it's going to be competitive, and they're doing the best they can to go as fast as they can. Most of the time I was slowing down.
But Tommy did it a few times, and it was always a big deal as to whether or not Tommy was going to come. I think he came, I don't know, 3 or 4 times during the first few years I did it.
When Tommy Moe finally won the downhill, I don't think he won it the first time he did it, but I remember when he finally won it, he said, okay, now I can retire.
You had at each of these ski areas early on no grooming.
And when there was finally enough snow to ski on Snow King, everybody that came on those first days was required to, their first run down the mountain had to be sidestepped to actually pack snow and provide the base for the rest of the snow in the winter. We were the groomers that provided the base for snow.
Some years we had more snow, but we didn't care about our bases or edges, that's for sure.
We had, that year that, wasn't that you said it was 81, that we were only open for 4 weeks? Yeah. I mean, oh, trust me, I remember shoveling snow into a pile so we had something to ski down. I mean,
We never skied powder. And we didn't know how, really.
Having different ways to handle the different conditions, well, Snow King had them all.
and we skied them all.
The moguls on Snow King would really get bad, and especially when it was a long time between snowstorms, the Snow King was just a solid mountain of moguls.
And what I liked about Snow King was we had a group of people who wanted to do it all. You didn't simply give up skiing because the conditions were tough. If the conditions were tough, well, you got tough.
When I started managing in 84, we had a piston bully 170 with a compactor bar, and I realized the industry was changing, and they come up with, someone invented the tiller, and we got our first tiller with a bigger groomer. I would buy used equipment, used groomers, tillers, our snow guns, and so on. Start out with something very simple and try to make it better. It was Neil Rafferty's philosophy. So what we did, we got Tillard grooming, snowmaking was a major improvement. Our first snowmaking was up in the Rafferty area. I bought a used snow gun from SMI, and we pulled it up the hill with a pickup truck, hooked it up to the fire hydrant, and made snow for the first time. But
in order to make a living in Jackson, was impossible because you had spring and fall, nothing happening. And the ski season really wasn't that big a money maker anyway. So it was a number of years before I could move here. I would rent an apartment or a little house over at John Harrington's Laundry. And most of the ski school were all living there who were teaching out at Teton Village. So I would take the people, all the instructors out to Teton Village. We'd all teach, them to come back again on my car. No one else had a car. Then I got fired out there and moved into Snow King. Then I was running the ski school. And having different ways to handle the different conditions, well, Snow King had them all.
You know, our motto was, we teach functional skiing, and if you learn to ski at Snow King, you can ski anywhere.
I think I remember Rafferty saying, it didn't matter what the conditions were, we were still skiing. And some of the conditions were terrible. But we would ski anyway. Well, the attitude at Snow King that you would ski anyway really was attractive to me. It really was. You didn't simply give up skiing because the conditions were tough. And boy, those were the best years of our lives that we had at Snow King, and people are still telling me so. They come by and they say, you know, the best years of my life were the ones that we had at Snow King.
I have some questions written down here. I wonder if there's anything that was in this video that you saw that maybe spurred a memory, or that you wanted to add to a memory that was in here. Anything along those lines? Jim?
Let's see. I just think that it's underneath everything that's said there is that, you know, I've always taken exception to the concept, no friends on powder days. I disagree. I think Snow King, like the way I was taught to ski, it was like a family affair, right? Like you were there with people. Like part of it wasn't just about the skiing. It's so terrible up there half the time, it shouldn't be, right? Is that you were there to like hang out with your friends, you know, the chairlift conversations. I remember like an ethic I was taught, it's like everybody, it's probably because it was so dangerous back in the days that, you know, one person would ski down and then they'd stop and they'd wait and they'd watch you know, you'd kind of cycle down there. So I think it's just something underneath all of what's said there is, you know, when Bill, who I made a point, just so you know, you taught my kids to ski one day. They know how to ski and stuff, but I was like, you got to do, I'm like, they're like, we know how to ski. I go, I know, but I mean, they didn't, but they're little, but I'm like, you're going to have a day with Bill Briggs. So it's a rare opportunity. And also the one thing that didn't come up, maybe it's in some of the other stuff, is the Torchlight Parade. I was proud to host for 25 years straight the Torchlight pregame party at my house because I live up the street, right? And Jim, I always remember Jim saying, like, I was a high school teacher and, alternative schools or whatever for decades. I felt so bad for you on those nights because he had to deal with all of us, right? And I'll always, we're up there all the time, and it'll come to me. I hear Sullivan's voice. He says, "Hold the line, hold the line," because everybody's going in 1,000 different directions. And that's like an event like that characterizes that theme of just community and like friendship and family. And it's not just about skiing. It's about the people and the relationships and the community.
I would say a word about the Torchlight Parade. I used to lead it, and Harry Baxter told me years ago, you don't go fast, you go as slow as the last skier in the line. And I did that, and Dave Miller and Howie Henderson were behind me, and Rick Hunt were behind me at one time. Just the three of them behind me, and they're going, "Sully, go faster, go faster." So what happens, we did that one time, and you end up with people all over the mountain, people asking you, "What was the guy over there doing over there on Grizzly?" But another thing I'd like to, the main focus here is the history, but there's also heritage. And, history is what happened, and heritage is what you do with that. And that right now, Snow King is a good example of heritage. We've come a long way. I didn't ski this year, but the new mountain is something you got to experience. For years, we dealt with the cold north face. Now there's a sunny side of Snow King with a chairlift and state-of-the-art snowmaking. If you haven't been there, you got to go. Thanks.
Okay, the first Torchlight Parade I was in was 1976, and I think maybe it was the first Torchlight Parade they had. We had a huge bonfire at the top of the mountain, and the torches had come from Orville's, I believe, somewhere where they'd been wet. So we got partway down, and all the torches went out. And I remember Art Becker was at the bottom, and he said, "Were you guys trying to write something?" Were you guys trying? I go, "No, we weren't trying to write something."
No, the reason why the torches went out, they were Army surplus, and they were stored in a warehouse, and the warehouse flooded halfway up the torch, halfway up the box. So that's how that happened.
I was just going to say one other thing about lessons. We had the Moran and Kelly kids come, and there are some of them. And the last lesson, we would always go down Leaks Canyon, and the bus would come around and pick them up. So that was pretty cool.
I'm wondering if, there's obviously, I just was only able to highlight a few people amongst a lot of people that have helped shape Snow King and been formative throughout the years of Snow King. And I'm just wondering if there's anyone that has inspired you guys at Snow King that was not included here that you'd like to mention.
Well, we've mentioned Bill Briggs, yes. I don't know. I'm stumped. Art Becker, Bruce Cameron, people that helped me get the thing back on its wheels. Yeah. So, does anybody in the audience? Was anybody wanting to ask a question? Okay, I should have known that. Yeah. Another one is Roy Peck. You may not know this, but Roy Peck saved Snow King. When the village came in 65, Neil Rafferty told me, "Boy, we thought we were done." But Roy Peck bought Snow King from Neil Rafferty and Western Standard Corporation, and the Carnes family had a lot to do with that too. And Roy Peck built the hotel and kept the ski area going. But Manuel Lopez, everybody knows Manuel. Who doesn't know Manuel? Anybody? No, he was a great guy, and he kept us going. Ran the ski area at a loss, but he always gave us the money to keep it going. So that was a good mention. Thanks, Manuel. Merle Coleman. I mean, Merle Coleman was Neil Rafferty's mountain manager. He did a great job. I mean, what they had to work with in those days. It wasn't even a piston bully 170. It was an old Thiokol, a flat land vehicle that he used to try to groom with. But did anybody else have a question or a comment? Oh, Frank Ewing, yeah. The picture of Frank looking up, Neil and Frank looking up at the snow for snow control and so on. But he was the first real professional ski patroller that we had. It was also Tiny Hagen. Tiny Hagen, have you ever seen the old poster of, there's a skier and it's 1955 is Tiny Hagen did the poster, and we made glasses, beer glasses, we made stickers out of it and so on. Anybody else? Peter, you got anything? Oh, we can hear you. I can hear you up here. Yeah, that was High Mountains Helicopters started at Snow King. The first year they picked up and left their clients off up top of Snow King, and they skied. Yeah, they skied up in Cache Creek, and then it became wilderness, and they can't do that anymore. So, yes.
I taught 75 to 80. Bill Briggs, of course, was director, and something Bill said on that video. Taught with DJ for years. I've been skiing 67 years. In those 5 years that I taught for Bill at Snow King Ski School, the best 5 years of my skiing career.
Yeah. It's great of you to say that, Mark. Good acknowledgement. Now, Justin Watsabaugh. There's a guy who talked. Let's talk about Justin Watsabaugh. That guy did more course setting and fence carrying and bamboo, and he just did it all. And he went down with Tommy Johnston to the Olympics in 2002, and he helped set up the downhill course on Grizzly, the course that they named down there. Didn't they name it? Grizzly, it was called. But you've done a lot of good work for Snow King, Justin. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, figured that. Yep. So I was the apparently youngest one to slide down the snow on Snow King. I was skiing with my Aunt Karen and in a pack, and the pack strap broke. And I slid down Old Man Flats and to Old Lady Flats before Karen swooped me up. And so, but I was curious. I was thinking that who had sat on a chairlift on Snow King more than Bill Briggs, and it was either between you and BJ or me. So, but yeah, the Snow King babysitter and racer, and put me to work for a lot of years. So, all right, thanks.
I almost brought up Justin. I didn't want to embarrass him. Other people to be recognized, right, is the Jacksonville High School ski team, right, that goes way back. You know, I think we're one of 9 states in the country that has like a public school ski program, right? I think the rest are where you grew up. And it's very rare in the West, right? And it's down to like 7 teams. And actually our team went down and got a team going in Cokeville and that little ski area over there so that the state didn't take funding away from it. So we can still have ski racing. But, you know, Steve and Kathy Holzer, I mean, the Holes spent a lot of time up there. And then that's probably 25 years of coaching between those two. And then Cody Hansen is the current coach up there. And you think about, and you know, they have this rule here in Jackson. It's an awesome part of Snow King, is you don't have to know how to ski at all to go out for that ski team, right? Like anybody can go out for that team and they don't cut. And I volunteered with them for a bunch of years just because of that kind of stuff. So, you know, that ski program that's gone in there and the ski clubs, this endless, a whole nother documentary, but I just wanted to mention that ski program as well.
So probably from when I first worked there, Bill Briggs always said, we should be skiing at the top of the mountain in the sun. That's where we should have the ski school. And he also hand dug a lot of trails. Eventually, right? Eventually, they got a machine and dug it, but he dug we call it return trail above the cemetery, you know, to make it easier. So he was always trying to figure out how to take care of beginners easier, which of course we have a very steep mountain for beginners. So anyway, but then Bill did a lot of tree cutting and at one point, he went to jail for it. But I think he just had to do weekends, you know, it was a big deal, you know, 3 meals a day, whatever. Anyway, and you know, but he was very incredibly innovative. He could always see where we needed another trail. Like then we got a trail from Rafferty back over to the main mountain. And anyway, that's only a few Bill Briggs stories. There's a lot of those.
I'd like to end on a real positive note about Snow King. The highlight of the years and months and years that I've worked at Snow King, the highlight was when we had the international teams come for training. You know, we're at the same elevation as Park City, so they like that. The international teams came because their athletes didn't get respiratory problems and so on. So I think it was 96 when we started it, but right before the Olympics in 2002 in Salt Lake, we had 9 teams come from different countries. It was France, Germany, Austria, Norway, Finland, and they came and they trained. And of the 30, right before the Olympics, it was 14 days of training, different disciplines. But at the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake City, athletes who trained at Snow King prior to the Olympics won 9 of the 30 medals. There were 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. And in all 5 disciplines, the combined, the downhill, Super G, giant slalom, and slalom, men and women. But that was quite a good performance for a small ski area in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So that in my opinion, that was a highlight of our tenure. Thanks.
I also just wanted to say your next documentary, right, because you got to do another one, is the Galande. That jump, I know the people in this audience, you could hear it, right, is that obviously a lot of people don't even realize that the ice rink is now where that Galande landing area used to be. And a favorite pastime, you know, keep in mind, is so much more. You got the hill climb going on there. You got Girl Scouts in the basement of that old lodge. All kinds of stuff happening at Snow King. But that Galande, we'd all, you know, on super cold days, right? You like whatever, you know, kids saying, you should go hit it. There's usually a Watson boy. And they'd hit it, and you'd be like at the edge, right? And they'd hit it, and they'd soar, right, out of sight. And then I still have like a memory, we'd all count, right? Because it went down into the pit. Not everybody came out of the pit, right? So we'd all count like 1, 2, 3, oh no. And then you'd run up there and see the carnage down in the pit that was dug out in there, right? Because if they didn't come out, something bad happened. But so much more than just downhill skiing was occurring there as well.
My name is Bob Gordon. I moved here in the late or mid 70s. And I have a story of competition that's not quite as daring as what Jim was talking about. But when I first moved here, I had a number of friends that were on the ski school, and they organized a race where the tube park is right now. And it was a beer slalom, and you had to drink a beer at every gate. By the time you got to the 6th one, it was really difficult to make.
So somebody should talk about the boat races. There's probably somebody in the audience that, you know, that they used to have down Snow King. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Well, there's really not much of a story for me to tell. I'm Rob Wattsbaugh. I was born and raised here. But they did have, and I don't know if it was a combination event or what it was, but we had bought a kayak from our next door neighbor, Dick Lang. And Willie decided that it would be an appropriate article for the boat races off of Snow King. That's why I said we had a kayak that we bought from Dick Lang. It was the end of that one. But Willie had fun. That was the whole point.
But how about the first snowmobile hill climb when they had a snowmobile go through a truck in the parking lot?
You know, and I was sitting here thinking of, and they were, as Jim was talking about the Galandi and everything else. I grew up hearing stories about Forrest Sterling riding a scoop shovel off that 40-meter jump. And I'll tell you now, I've been hit in the head a few times, so I can plead diminished capacity, but I was only a junior in high school back then. And finally one day I got just enough liquid courage in me. I couldn't stand anymore. And I don't think I've ever been so beat up in my life as riding that scoop shovel off that 40. It was an old 40-meter Nordic jump that and had been there for years, and they used it for junior nationals. But I mean, oh my God, you talk about get some air, and then I never did really figure out how to land it. So.
My name is Patty Ewing, and I just want to make mention of my husband, Frank Ewing, who started on Snow King when he first came to Jackson in 1955. One of the things that I remember when I first came here in 61, and Frank was the chairman of, or he was the the race chairman for the high school kids, and probably there's some people in here who remember that. But during the junior nationals, he was also the race chairman of the junior nationals, which was the year that we had to bring in trucks of snow and boot packets. And as most of you remember, it did finally snow, but just before the junior nationals. The other thing that I want to mention about Frank is that the first paid patrolman on Snow King was actually Richard Dick Pittman, not Frank. Frank did patrol. He was always a volunteer, and he also taught skiing there for Bill Ashley before Bill Briggs took over. But Frank was also involved in a major avalanche on Snow King. This was before avalanches were controlled. It was a nascent kind of problem that people who were skiing Snow King just were learning about. And Frank and Dick Pittman were caught in an avalanche on Snow King. Most of you know where it is. There's now a ski run there. I doubt if anyone skis it very much because it's pretty darn steep. But Frank and Pitt were actually doing some early avalanche control by trying to kick off a cornice. They were roped up, and Pitt was above Frank and belaying Frank. Pitt kicked off the cornice and was carried down. He ran into a lot of trees. He went all the way down the hill. Frank was pulled into the trees. He got caught by the trees and was hung up on a tree, which is what saved his life. Pitt, some of you probably know the terrain I'm talking about. There are sheer rocks right at the bottom. And Frank got down as quickly as he could. He was hung up in a tree, got down to Pitt, and worked on him for about 45 minutes. Dennis Staley, who was an instructor at the time, got over there very soon. Fortunately or unfortunately, he was able to get a couple of breaths out of, Pitt. But after Pitt was taken to the hospital, Dr. McLeod said that there was no way that Frank could have done anything for him because Pitt had been pulled down through the trees and was really had a lot of internal injuries. So today I went over to Rod Newcomb, the local avalanche expert. You all know Rod. And I videotaped him or videoed him describing the avalanche and what caused it. And it's very interesting. I brought it here. I don't know whether Morgan can show it, but if any of you would like to see it, Rod is, of course, kind of an avalanche expert. I think you will know that. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
Okay, and this, I promise this is the last time I'm going to stand up and tell a story. But I was sitting here thinking about the good old days on Snow King, and I never got to take a ski lesson from Bill Briggs. But he'd affected my skiing more in one ride up Snow King chair to the summit than he ever realized. And I don't know how many of you here ever remember what the old lift line run looked like, but it was about what, Bill? 14, 18 feet wide, something like that, if that. And so I finally worked all the courage up that I could get, and I thought, by God, I'm going to ski that lift line. Well, unfortunately, 2 or 3 or 4 other people had already been down it, so there were tracks. So I was following their tracks, and it's not like we were skiing fat skis in those days that actually turned very well either. And I'm fighting my way down through that thing, and Bill's headed up the hill with the class, and he leans over the chair, as God is my witness, make a different track. And I've stopped and I thought, how the hell am I going to do that? Well, I finished that run, got back up, and I thought, well, by God, he challenged me. I better try that. So I did. Thanks, Bill.
Yes, Snow King is such a rich history, but also unique history. And I really hope there'll be a follow-up video, because 2 things I want to highlight is I'm a ski patroller at Snow King. We are the oldest volunteer ski patrol west of the Mississippi. So that's something to be proud of. And we also really need to capture some of the history of the hill climb, because we are the only ski resort, I believe, in North America that allows such a crazy event to happen.
That's where I was going to step in and say, we need to recognize a couple of people here, Donna and Blake Clark and the Snow Devils, and the way they organize that hill climb. It's a world championship, and it's really special. And Norris Brown is one of he's the competitor. He's the competitor. And he's won it how many times? Couple times. Anyway, yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, because I wanted to mention that's, Snow King is good for special events, and that is the granddaddy of them all, is what they say. That snowmobile hill climb, there's a lot of, for the economy of Jackson Hole and so on. So I recognize Blake, Donna, Norris, and all the Snow Devils, and even Justin, to get to get the thing going. And it's evolved. It used to be just a hill climb. Now it's an uphill giant slalom on a snowmobile. But it's quite the event. Thanks, Donna, Blake, Norris. And Lane.
So just, there's a lot of individual people, and I believe that Wild Bill Townsend was the first king of the hill. And for those of us that remember Bill, I mean, he did a lot for running the hill climb, and people would complain about the hill climb, but the rest of us that worked there was like, hey, the hill climb is keeping us open because it makes money, right?
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience have any questions or comments or thoughts? So talk about the speed ski events that happened twice.
The speed skiing? You mean the Camel Series? The Camel Series, yeah. I have a story to tell you about that. The last time I spoke at one of these functions at the museum and the artist or the Historical Society, I told a story after we talked about there was a gentleman in the audience who asked about the Camel Speed Series. And I said, yeah, we did this. Steve McKinney came here and he drove a basketball from Tower 9 to find out where the fastest line was and so on. And I said, by the way, did you know that Will Chamberlain holds the world record at 145 miles per hour? And then the next day I realized that was in water skiing. I will never live it down.
I think we should write a collection of short stories for anybody who is stranded on the lifts over all those years, right? Because poignant memories, right? Like maybe help was coming, but my brothers and I were stranded on that old chairlift. I remember the helicopters bringing in the old lift. Now there's the new gondola. But yeah, I just thought it was easier to jump, a lot faster. I did. It worked out good for me. And my brother, I think like 3 hours later, they finally got him off there. But I'm sure there's a lot of us who, just because you got on a lift back in the day, didn't necessarily mean you were going to get to the top, because it might take a break.
Anyone else? In the back left there.
There you go.
Tree line comes
Hold
down.
it close to your mouth.
Okay. And the sled kicked loose, and I was waiting. I was by myself. I was waiting in the lift to catch a chair, and it was coming right down towards me. And I stepped off the platform. It went right through and smashed into that massive concrete thing that the lift weight. And like, do you guys remember that? Like the sled came through, and if I had not moved, it would have totally annihilated me. And somehow it got right through and exploded against that concrete brick. Was I skiing too fast?
There was wedges along the course, and I was leaning over to get a wedge, and I fell off. To the side, two on top, and then straight down. And then it would have killed somebody that was standing in line, but there was lucky standing in line. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Thank you. Well, I've only been here for about 8 years, but I remember that my first time going up Snow King was carrying my skis on my back and doing the skin track, and I didn't realize you were supposed to use skins. And everyone just kind of said, "Hey, keep going, good job." I was like, "Okay, thank you. I'll get there someday." And ever since, I've been just doing mostly the boot pack, and I just think it's a great way to not just get outside, but to clear your head. And it's awesome to see so many people just pass me on the way up, or just skin up with their kids on their back. And I'm still in absolute awe of all of you who do that. So thanks for keeping the king alive, and keep doing it.
I was lucky enough to move here when I was 16, so I went to high school here for a couple of years, about 54 years ago. But I remember what Snow King did for our high school ski team was pretty impressive. The old rope tow was on the side of the 40-meter, went right up the ridge, kind of where the ice, above the ice rink now. And it had the old truck engine from Teton Pass that ran up there. And that was our ski team rope tow. And we skied up there after dark. There were lights up there. And so for 2 years when I was a junior and a senior in high school, I skied up there every day. And it was pretty amazing what, they allowed us to do after hours and everything else. And they accommodated us really nicely. So it's appreciated.
Well, my brother inspired me to kind of make a little confession here. I really just want to apologize to Jim Sullivan for all of the torment that us kids provided for him on that hill. And talking about the speed skiing events too, kind of sparked memory that we thought it was a really good idea to go do what the speed skiers did. And so we went to the top exhibition, like right after the speed skiing event. And we thought, well, gosh, they just tuck it all the way down. So we went up there and we got to the top and we started down, and you got going so fast that it was just got scary. And so then we went to stand up to slow down, and your skis started lifting off the ground. So you kind of got back down, and then you'd stand up to try to slow down. Your skis would come up, and it got pretty scary. But yeah, we had a lot of fun up there. And Jim, I really do appreciate. I know that you pointed your finger at me quite a lot when we were kids, and we did our best to have fun up there. And I think one of the funny things that we did too was we had a jump, we call the Polish grunt, and we do that up on Elk. And it was only on good powder days, but we'd go up and that little gully on the right side of Elk, we'd go up and we'd hit that little gully and we'd come up in the air and just throw our skis up and land on our backs. And it was pretty fun hill to grow up on. So I'm really glad it's there, and good to see new generations coming up and doing that too and enjoying that hill, and glad that we still get out there on powder days too.
I grew up on, my name is Norris Brown. I grew up on Kelly Street, and I used to shush home till the Ramada was built, right over to, I didn't have to do like you guys. I was there. But my favorite story probably was Powder Day on the King, probably a couple feet of snow. And it was probably in 72, 73. And Bill Briggs did teach me how to ski. But there was only 2 of us on the mountain that day. I'd skipped school. And there was probably half a day went by before the guy that was the other guy on the mountain and I hit the bottom at the same time. And it was Bill McIntosh, my shop teacher. And he had skipped school as well. And we rode up the chair together, and at the speed the chair was going in those days, we had pretty good conversation about not sharing where we were that day.
Well, just wanted to thank Jim Sullivan, Jim Rooks, BJ Reed, and everyone else who contributed to the video, Jacksonville Public Art and the museum. And thank you all for coming and sharing your stories. It was really a lovely night, and we'll see you soon.
For those who do want to stick around, as Patty mentioned, she brought a short video of Rod Newcomb. And so I encourage, it is past 7, so if people need to leave, you're welcome to, and it will take me a second to get it up on the screen, and it won't be cast down to the first floor. But I will get that teed up. But again, yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. This is the essence of the museum and of Beers and Banter, so thank you.